We're talking about another tall, deep threat wide receiver, Troy Franklin, out of Oregon. He's 6'3", very skinny at 187 pounds. A true, target monster, deep threat, did everything in this Oregon offense. But as I did say, he is incredibly skinny. Are they concerns that you've got moving forwards, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy that what was it on his pro day that he finally got up to that 185, 187 range. I think he came in the combine even lighter, if I'm not mistaken. I believe like 175,
Yep.
which is wild. And obviously that changes his 40 time as well. So he went to the combine looking for speed, but yeah, thin and fast and can get open. But as you mentioned in the slide here, he has to. And that's what scares me about Troy Franklin is that if he's not a contested guy, a contested catch guy, the NFL has some problems here. So this is where he's a significant tier below Brian Thomas for me in the sense that he's not elite and doesn't have the frame that Thomas has. He's a tick below, but plays a similar game. Great route running, is quick, but what's his ceiling? I mean, when we talk about it in reality, he's not a wide receiver one on a good NFL offense, in my opinion. He's tracking towards a wide receiver two at best, and I think a hit or miss one. I love what he did in college, but obviously we've seen Oregon is a big pass offense. They put up numbers. He obviously took advantage of that, but yeah, this is a guy realistically for me that I'm going to shy a little bit away from because when we look at, and I know we've been talking about these skinny guys, Tank Dell last year, Devonta Smith before that. Troy Franklin isn't in that class for me of route running. While he's good, Devonta Smith is one of the best we've ever seen in covering the series, like we talked about, we've done in the past 4 years. And Tank Dell is just a freak who then also got the luxury of landing with CJ Stroud, right? Like there was a lot that went well for Tank, who outstanding route runner, I think, in a different tier than Troy Franklin. So I like him. Don't love him. This is a guy I'm far more comfortable with in the second round, but I don't think I'm spending a first round on Troy Franklin. This is where I start looking at maybe the RB1 in this class if they land with, say, the Chargers or the Cowboys, for example. This is about that time where I'm saying, hey, maybe we want to look at that RB1. Obviously, after Neighbors, that's where I'm starting to look at Brock Bowers. So we're starting to get to that point where it's not just wide receiver, wide receiver, wide receiver. And this is that drop off point where I like Franklin, but I could see myself going for a year one running back that I think is going to cash in quickly and then being able to trade him for someone like Franklin plus for the second year.
Yeah, I think that whilst Franklin and Brian Thomas probably ran similar routes in college, I think they did it in different ways. Brian Thomas is a deep threat that can run past defenders, but can also catch the ball over defenders and win at the catch point. Troy Franklin is a guy that needed to be open in order to kind of bring the ball in. And you see that as a slight negative. I guess I probably see that as a slight positive because I think he is a better route runner than Brian Thomas. I think he can run a more diverse route tree. I don't think we're going to see him run a huge amount of, we're going to see him running slants. We're not going to see him running really complex routes. But I think if we can have him on shallow crosses, if you can have him on digs, posts, 9 routes, I think he's the kind of guy that has got the speed and the ability and the quickness to get away from defenders. Now, where I think Brian Thomas can walk into 32 teams in the NFL and have a role immediately, I don't think that's the case with Troy Franklin because I think that he is going to be a little bit more scheme specific because not every team will have the offense that has a role for a Troy Franklin. However, I think that the ceiling for Troy Franklin is a little bit higher because I think he's got that more diverse route tree. I think he can command a higher target share, and I think he can do a little bit more than just be that one-trick pony who goes deep. So, yeah, I've got real concerns about Troy Franklin. He's in the same tier with me, with Brian Thomas, with Rome Odunze, and a guy that we're not going to talk about today. But I think that there's a little bit more I want to see, and it will depend more on where he lands as to whether he could potentially be my wide receiver 4 or he could end up being my wide receiver 6 based on that landing spot, which is not something I typically say with wide receivers, because normally I'm the person that says landing spot doesn't matter. But I think Troy Franklin, because of the type of receiver he is, I think he needs to be in the right offense that's going to use him the right ways. If you just stick him outside and say, right, he's my X, he's going to run, beat press coverage and try and run those downfield routes, I think he's going to struggle, because unless he's suddenly going to whack on a load of frame, unless he's going to develop a whole new release package and be able to win contested catches, I think he's going to struggle in that sort of role. So, yeah, I like Troy Franklin. There's definitely bits I like, but it's landing spot dependent, and there is an element of projection definitely for him to the next level that we don't see with some other guys in this sort of tier.